What if the thing haunting your home wasn't following you at all? What if it was something you proudly placed on a shelf? Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to talk about a case I call the case of the haunted object. This happened in 2019. A woman, we'll call her Becky, reached out to me through my website. She had just moved from the West Coast to the East Coast to live with her boyfriend. Big move, big life change, a lot happening at once. About a week after she moved in, things started to happen. In the middle of the night, her iPad and its stand were knocked across the room. Not tipped over, not fallen, knocked across the room. She also started experiencing some electrical issues, like her electric toothbrush lighting up at 3 a.m., even though it had already been fully charged. And then there were the dreams. Very vivid dreams of a man hovering above her boyfriend. The kind of dreams that feel so real, you wake up and aren't sure where you are for a moment. So let's slow this down and break it apart. The iPad being knocked across the room, that stands out. That's not something we can easily dismiss. The toothbrush lighting up at 3 a.m.? Well, electrical devices malfunction. 3 in the morning is often referred to as a witching hour, but could also be just a coincidence. By itself, I'm not alarmed. Let's put a pin in that too. The dreams? Very intense, yes. But she had just moved across the country. That's stressful. New home, new routine, big life transition. We've all had those dreams that feel completely real. Frightening, sad, bizarre. And yet, they're still just dreams. So I put a pin in that as well. At this point, nothing gets ruled out, but nothing gets assumed either. What matters most is what stands out, the pieces that can't be easily explained. So I went back to the beginning, before she ever moved east. Becky told me she had lived in places before that she believed were haunted. She had had experiences with spirits in the past. So her first thought was that she had brought something with her, that she had an attachment and had followed her to her boyfriend's home. And honestly, on the surface, that sounds reasonable, especially since her boyfriend had lived in that house for years with no issues, until she moves in. It would be easy to say, that's it, we have the calls, now let's deal with it. But something didn't set right with me. If something were attached to her, why would it suddenly turn violent toward her boyfriend? Can that happen? Yes, I've had cases like that before, but this didn't feel like that. I just had a sense there was a piece missing. Not that she was hiding anything, just something she didn't realize was important. So I kept going over the timeline with her, over and over. I'm sure she was tired of repeating herself. And then she mentioned something. When she moved in, they decided to redecorate a bit. No more bachelor pad. Now you have a couple sharing a space. Her boyfriend had a sealed container stored under his bed. Inside were wooden carvings he had brought back from Latin America when he lived there for a time. They had been under the bed, sealed up for years. But once she moved in, they pulled them out and placed the carvings around the home. So I asked her very calmly, did the activity start after those items were taken out? And she paused and then she said yes. And in that moment, everything clicked. When we travel, we all bring things home. Souvenirs. Items that remind us of places we've been. And most of the time, they're harmless. But in parts of Latin America, there are deep spiritual traditions. Blends of Catholic, African, and indigenous practices. In some traditions, wooden carvings can serve as spiritual vessels. Representations of ancestral, protective, or elemental spirits. They can act as conduits between the physical and spiritual realms. Not every carving is problematic, but some objects are created with spiritual intention. And occasionally, those intentions are not something you want sitting in your home. This no longer looked like an attachment. It looked like an object issue. So I gave her a plan. I told Becky to gather every carving that had been in that container and place them all back inside. I had her sprinkle salt into the container, say a prayer I provided, seal it up, and remove it from the home. If we were right, the activity would stop. And since they were Catholic, I also suggested having a priest come say prayers over the home after the items were removed. A week or two later, I followed up. She told me that as soon as the objects were removed, the activity stopped completely. They did have a priest come and pray over the house. He wasn't able to formally bless the house because they weren't married, but prayers were said and peace returned. So what did we learn? Sometimes clients come in with a theory that makes sense. And Becky's theory did make sense. But if you lock onto the first idea and never step back, you could go down the wrong path and prolong someone's fear. You take what the client says, put a pin in it, and you start at the beginning. In this case, once we found the missing puzzle piece, everything fell into place. And thankfully, it had a very peaceful resolution. Thank you so much for watching. It truly means more than you know. And next time, we'll be talking about a Ouija board case. And that one, I'll actually have some evidence to share. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next Spirit Chasers.